There is a specific feeling most people have at some point in their late 20s or 30s. You're at a social event, a work function, a wedding, a party full of people you don't know well. You talk to someone, the conversation is easy, you have things in common, you genuinely like them. And then you go home, and you never see them again. Not because anything went wrong, but because neither of you knew how to turn that into a friendship. Because the conditions that once made friendship happen automatically quietly disappeared, and you never noticed until they were gone. Stay until the end of this video, because the reason you struggle to make friends as an adult has nothing to do with your personality, your schedule, or how likable you are. The real reason is structural, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. But the reason this keeps happening is not what most people think, and the part that nobody talks about is significantly more uncomfortable than the feeling itself. Here's what actually happened to those skills. Friendship is not a feeling, it is a process. And like every biological process, it has conditions. In 1954, sociologist Leon Festinger studied the friendships forming inside a housing complex at MIT. He wasn't looking for anything dramatic, he was tracking proximity. Who lived near who? What he found was almost mechanical. The single strongest predictor of friendship was not personality, not shared interests, not attraction. It was physical distance. People became close friends with the person next door far more often than the person 2 doors down. 2 doors down more than the person across the hall. The architecture of the building was shaping the friendships, not the people inside it. But proximity alone is not enough. Familiarity also requires time. In 2018, researcher Jeffrey Hall at the University of Kansas spent years measuring exactly how much time friendship actually requires. His conclusion was precise and uncomfortable. It takes roughly 50 hours of time together to move from stranger to casual friend, around 200 hours to reach genuine closeness. Not 200 hours across a lifetime, 200 hours within a concentrated period of time. School provides those hours automatically. Adult life, for most people, does not. The friendships were not failing because the people were wrong for each other. They were failing because the hours were never accumulating. But proximity and accumulated time are only 2/3 of the equation. The third condition is the one that explains why even people who live next door, who see each other every day, never become close. And it is the condition that adult life destroys first. A setting that allows lowered defenses. A context where it is socially acceptable, even expected, to be unguarded, to say something embarrassing, to admit something uncertain, to be seen before you have decided how you want to be seen. School provides this automatically. You arrive not knowing anyone. Everyone is equally lost. The shared vulnerability is the raw material that friendships are built from. You're not performing yet. There is nothing yet to perform. Take all 3 conditions together: proximity, accumulated time, a setting that allows lowered defenses, and you have the architecture of almost every close friendship most people have ever made. Trace almost any of them back far enough, and you will find these conditions operating simultaneously, without anyone trying. Now, look at adult life after 25. You go to work, you sit at a desk or attend meetings with the same people on a fixed schedule. The interactions are planned. The setting demands a performance: professional, competent, composed. You go home, you see the same small group of people you already know. Occasionally, you meet someone new at a social event. The conversation is easy, you genuinely like them, and then you go home. Because you do not live next door to them. Because the hours will never accumulate to 50, let alone 200. Because the setting you met in did not allow either of you to be unguarded. All 3 conditions have quietly vanished from your daily life. And without them, building what you built before becomes structurally almost impossible. This is not a personal failure. It is a structural one. But here is where it gets more specific, because there is one particular type of hour that builds friendship, and one type that never will. And most of the time, adults spend together falls into the wrong category entirely. In 2018, Jeffrey Hall made a distinction that changes everything about how you think about the time you already spend with people. Structured hours, meetings, planned dinners, scheduled calls, barely move the friendship needle. They accumulate on paper, but not in the brain. What builds closeness is unstructured time, unplanned, agenda-free hours where neither person is performing a role, where the conversation can go anywhere, where silence is comfortable rather than awkward. The colleague you have worked alongside for 3 years but only ever seen in meetings has given you hundreds of hours on paper, but almost none of the right kind. And your brain knows the difference, even when you don't. And there is one more layer that makes this harder to fix than it sounds. The brain does change with age. Neuroplasticity, the capacity to rewire and adapt, does slow gradually across adulthood. But that is not the primary reason friendship becomes harder. Researchers consistently point to something more concrete: time, geography, and role obligations. Marriage, children, career, relocation, each one quietly removes the conditions that friendship requires. The brain is not the obstacle, the life built around it is. And here is the specific cruelty of that. Every major life milestone that is supposed to make your life fuller is simultaneously making the architecture of friendship harder to sustain. You get the promotion and lose the commute that puts you next to the same person every morning. You have a child and lose the unstructured weekend hours that used to accumulate without anyone planning them. Every gain quietly costs something you didn't know you were spending. Most people feel this but cannot name it. They describe it as being bad at socializing, as having become more introverted with age, as simply being too busy. None of these are accurate. What they are experiencing is the structural collapse of the conditions that made friendship possible. It is not a character flaw. It is architecture and schedule and the quiet disappearance of the kind of time that closeness actually requires. Which means the question is not whether friendship is still possible after 25. It is whether you are willing to do deliberately what used to happen accidentally. The 3 conditions can be rebuilt, not accidentally the way they existed in school, but deliberately. Proximity can be manufactured. Unstructured hours can be accumulated intentionally. Vulnerability can be chosen rather than defaulted into. People who successfully form deep friendships in adulthood are not more socially gifted than those who don't. They are simply operating, whether they know it or not, inside conditions that make friendship structurally possible. They joined a club they attend weekly. They moved into a shared living situation. They started a regular commitment that put them in the same room with the same people without an agenda. The brain did not stop wanting connection after 25. It stopped being given the conditions to build it. And the conditions were never random. They were always something that could be built. If any part of this felt true about your own life, that recognition is worth something. Most people never name what you just named. There's more of this every Thursday.